and knowledge with you today. In addition, we've hopefully arranged an agenda to maximize your opportunities for learning and planning for your schools to really be successful in both the Healthy Champions program and the Kohl Circle of Wellness program, which we'll be talking about today. As a participant in the Kohl Circle of Wellness program, our ultimate goal is to enhance your enrollment in our Healthy Champions program. This year-long Circle of Wellness program will provide one-on-one technical assistance to help you review your personalized assessment results, which hopefully you've all received via email so far, hopefully to improve your 2020-2021 STAR status and to create new signature events. Before we introduce our first speaker, I wanted to begin today by discussing the logistics of the workshop, followed by an overview of Pro Wellness and Circle of Wellness. So workshop logistics. Attached to everyone's Zoom invitation today, you're going to find the workshop manual. This manual contains the agenda, session descriptions, speaker biographies, and all Circle of Wellness templates and resources that you'll need to hopefully be successful in our program. We have included a couple breaks throughout, but if you need to take any personal breaks or bathroom breaks, as I mentioned, you are muted. Please feel free to take any breaks as you need to. However, we do ask that you stay engaged throughout. I know it's a little bit difficult in our new virtual setting to stay engaged. We hope, though, that we've provided enough incentive through our workshop for you guys to all stay engaged. We have giveaways throughout the program in between a couple of our sessions as a way to just incentivize each of you to stay engaged and to stick with us for the next 3 hours. Penn State PRO Wellness, seated within Penn State's Children's Hospital, has a 16-year history of engaging children and families in wellness programming across Pennsylvania. Since 2013, PRO Wellness has managed the Healthy Champions school program. In the last 2 school years, we've actually enrolled over 600 schools in both academic years. This year alone, the program will impact roughly 400,000 students in the 61 Pennsylvania counties. As I mentioned, the Circle of Wellness program is really just an enhancement of your Healthy Champions participation. This begins with the virtual workshop. So overall child health is essential in creating the greatest opportunities for the children we serve, which is why we have modeled our Circle of Wellness workshop around the whole school, whole child, whole community, or WSCC framework, which is a collaborative approach to learning and health. As a Healthy Champion participant, we really want to be able to begin to provide all of you with resources and support outside of the areas of nutrition and physical activity. And we're really hopeful that today's sessions and presentations and follow-up technical assistance will do that. The second piece of the Circle of Wellness program, which will follow the virtual workshop through the remainder of the school year, is personalized technical assistance to help improve your wellness programming. As you know, the Healthy Champions assessment currently analyzes scores spanning 6 categories, including nutrition, physical activity, psychological and social services, school health environment, wellness policy, and wellness promotion. A customized score is then sent to you via email at the beginning of the school year, and then you receive your welcome kit of resources. While these customized reports are unique to this program, PRO Wellness, up until this point, because we enroll 600 schools, we're unable to provide that hands-on technical assistance to assist in improving of the STAR status, which is why we propose to Kohl's Cares the continuation of the Circle of Wellness model, which is really to be able to provide that hands-on technical assistance to help and enhance your experience. So following the workshop, PRO Wellness will provide technical assistance to assist schools in setting goals for attaining that next level STAR status. While the Healthy Champions assessment analyzes scores spanning several WSCC components, PRO Wellness's current Healthy Champions resources and materials, as you know, continue to focus primarily on physical activity and nutrition. Specifically, the 4 signature events are designed to encourage students to develop healthy nutritional habits and expend 50% of their daily energy while at school. For this reason, the Circle of Wellness program really focuses on expanding those current Healthy Champions materials and resources to include topics outside of nutrition and physical activity. Our goal is to assist schools in recognizing new areas of wellness through workshop participation and ongoing technical assistance to allow you to create new signature events. The unique school design signature events will be centered in areas of the WSCC framework not currently represented. So we're really looking for new signature events outside of nutrition and physical activity. With your assistance, our hope is that by the end of the year, we'll be able to create a signature event toolkit, which will capture events for future Healthy Champion enrollees to be distributed at the beginning of the next school year. So our hope is to be able to compile all of your unique signature events that you create throughout the school year into one toolkit that will then be shared with all Healthy Champions next school year. As a reference, this is our proposed timeline of the Circle of Wellness program. It begins with the workshop. In February, we will provide those templates to create those unique signature events. There is not only technical support from the team, but also stipend support to help with the creation of the signature event and potentially implementation of that signature event. Technical assistance throughout the year will be provided. And then in August, we'll have our final check-in where we'll ask you to complete a final evaluation. And then you'll receive a gift card for obviously completing that final evaluation. And I should mention that this timeline is actually page 8 in that manual. So as I said, everything that you will need from today's event and to be successful in the program will hopefully be found in that manual. If not, everything will also be provided in our on our webpage, which we'll provide that link to at the end of today's workshop. With personalized technical assistance not currently provided through the Healthy Champions program, we really hope to assist each school in successfully meeting our Circle of Wellness goals. And to reiterate, to review your Healthy Champions assessment scores, which you've already received, and to improve your STAR status. And then use our template to create new signature events, again, outside of nutrition and or physical activity. Okay, so we are going to jump into session 1. I'm going to introduce our speaker. So Dr. Hannah Meckley-Brewer is an associate professor in the Department of Physical and Health Education at Slippery Rock University. She is a certified health education specialist and serves as the School Wellness Education Program Coordinator. She was instrumental in revising Slippery Rock University's health and physical education teacher education program to be aligned with the whole child or WSCC model, as I just discussed, and teaches various courses in the areas of school wellness, social and emotional learning, and school nutrition. Dr. Meckley-Brewer is passionate about rebuilding the health and wellness of our society through schools. So I'm going to go ahead, Hannah, and I'm going to give you remote access here. So you should be able to manipulate your slides in just 1 second here. Okay, Hannah, you should be able to, the slides should be in your possession now.
Okay, so if I click, it should move forward. Let's check that out.
It should move forward, yep.
It does, okay.
Awesome, okay.
Thanks so much. So good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to talk to you about mental resilience. And before we dive into this topic, I want everybody to know that this is something that over the past 4 years, I've become more passionate about and I've done some retraining in. So probably like most of you, I was trained in a traditional teacher education program where social and emotional learning wasn't yet a focus or a key focus of teaching in K-12 schools. But as we know, within the past several years, it's become the responsibility of really all educators and all school personnel. So I've been reading, researching, and discovering ways to make this more accessible to students. A few objectives for this morning. So first of all, we're going to discuss why schools can play such a key role in promoting mental resilience. So we know that schools are a location where we have our audience already there. Or if they're not physically present, we have access to them through remote learning. So when we look at society and where most students are in their formative years, schools are that location. Our second objective is to learn what skills are needed for students so that they can enhance their mental resilience. And then finally, how teachers or other personnel in those schools can use strategies to promote mental resilience. So to be a little bit of why, what, and then how. So first of all, why this topic is important. 1 in 6 school-age youth have expressed either stress, anxiety, or some type of social and emotional concern, and that stands out to us because as educators, as those that work in schools, we may have thought that youth is a time for kids to just enjoy life, to play, to not have to worry about some of the stressors of adulthood. But what we're finding out today is that 1 in 6, they do experience stressors, and how their minds and their bodies react can have both short-term and long-term effects on their well-being. We also know that prevention is key. So in terms of why schools for mental resilience, the former Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy, he had reported that medication and treatment would not cure what society is facing today. And he specifically pointed out 4 things that we needed to focus on for preventative efforts. And they were eating better, moving more, controlling stress, and sleeping better. So I made the correlation to the WSCC model, and that the Surgeon General and the CDC and ASCD were kind of citing the same things in different ways. So as a teacher and now as someone that trains future teachers to work in schools, I knew that it was important to really focus on how can we prepare students in K-12 schools to control their stress, to be socially and emotionally well, and to build that mental resilience. So with prevention, that goes to our why for schools, because in schools, students are still shaping their skills, they're becoming resilient, they're learning how to react when they're faced with life stressors. So it gives us an opportunity to be proactive. And the Surgeon General specifically said, where can prevention take place? Community agencies, schools, or faith-based organizations. So his statement a few years ago was one of the factors that led to Slippery Rock University revamping their teacher education program in health and PE to be fully based on the WSCC model. We certainly still have a key focus on teaching health and physical education, but we also prepare our future teachers to understand the 10 components of the model and to see how they can collaborate with other people in the school and community for each of the 10 components, not just physical activity and physical education and health. And we looked at this earlier. So in this session, we'll focus primarily on the social and emotional climate in schools. But as most of you know, all of these are interconnected. So some of the aspects of mental resilience cross over into counseling, psychological, and social services. They relate to health education, family engagement, but our primary focus is the social and emotional climate in schools and how you can be a part of creating a climate that builds mental resilience. So to recap on our why, or the first objective, youth stress and anxiety are common. So the report I found was 1 in 6 experience that. And our second part of the why is that schools are a suitable location to help these students. So when we think about childhood, it's changed. So now there are so many opportunities for different types of activities. Students are faced with the challenge of balancing remote learning with some face-to-face instruction. They may feel pressure of testing and performance. So even though as adults, we may see that youth is a time to just grow and develop and explore, sometimes they see it differently and put pressures on themselves. So SEL is a topic that has gained increased attention in schools, and it stands for social and emotional learning. So this topic of mental resilience falls into that category. And a quote by Kang in 2017 reported that by teaching kids how to cope with adversity, we can reduce the burden of mental illness. And that's something I'd like to point out to all of you, is that we do our best as teachers and as professionals to kind of prevent adversity as much as possible, at least in the school setting, but we can't eliminate adversity in a student's life. What we can do is help them cope and help them learn how to react, to approach things with a growth mindset, and to kind of use skills that build mental resilience. So they will face adversity, but we can help them with that. I've also read that social and emotional learning can be the most proactive initiative for mental health illness prevention, which speaks volumes that we have that opportunity in schools to help students in this way. So our second objective is to learn what are the skills needed for students to enhance their mental resilience. And about 3 years ago, I was asked to write a new class for our undergraduate school wellness education program under the topic of social and emotional learning. So what I did is I started to read from different books, different authors, different research studies about what skills make people more mentally resilient. And what I found is that, first of all, they're self-aware. So self-awareness is a skill that we can teach students in schools. And it's knowing their strengths and their limitations, staying optimistic, and having a growth mindset. So if you really look at the concept of self-awareness, and if you apply it to any sort of stressor, it allows the student to approach it with a realistic frame of mind, because they know their strengths and their limitations, but they're looking for that potential or what they can still do. So it gives them a mindset of growth instead of a mindset of disappointment or a mindset of failure. After self-awareness, a second skill is self-management. And I've seen this called self-regulation. And essentially what it means is the ability to regulate one's emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. So this deals with how students respond to stressors, or how we respond to stressors. So self-management also leads to the ability to organize one's life, the ability to have some structure, and to really take ownership for one's actions and behaviors. So first, going back, self-awareness, is the ability to understand your strengths and your limitations, stay optimistic, and have a growth mindset. And then self-management or self-regulation would be taking that self-awareness and then using it to react to different stressors or situations. I also like to bring up the concept of communication with other people. So conflict. We know that conflict is a big part of life for people of any age. So if somebody is able to self-manage or self-regulate, they usually handle conflicts in a proactive or positive way, where they're willing to listen to the other person's views, control their emotions, and approach the conversation in a more thoughtful manner. The third skill is habits. So oftentimes in health education or any sort of personal development class, we talk a lot about goal setting. And goal setting is great, but from the reading that I've done, I've learned that habits and our small daily, just little habits that seem like they're not much of anything are actually what lead to positive goals. So instead of just having students set sort of a pie in the sky goal, it's important to get them to think about their everyday habits that can lead to achieving that goal. So maybe if the student has the goal of going to college or being selected for the marching band, that's a great goal, but then it's our role to help talk to them about the everyday habits that may lead them to achieving that. There's a great book by James Clear, and it's called Atomic Habits, and he talks about how people who are successful in life, it's because they make intentional choices with their everyday habits that then lead to this long-term success. It's usually not by chance or by talent, but it's about their everyday habits. And I think what's really powerful in that is that when we see students in K-12 schools, they may not know that. They may think that, you know, based on their situation or their experiences or where they live, that it's going to limit their abilities to be successful. But if we can teach them to be self-aware, self-regulate, and to create habits that are positive and proactive, they have all the potential in the world to be who they want to be or to achieve. And then habit stacking goes in alignment with that growth mindset and being optimistic. It's finding one positive habit that the student does already and encouraging them to build a second habit on that. And then the fourth skill for teaching mental resilience is empathy. And this is something that a lot of teachers do naturally, but what we might forget to do is to explain to students that it can be learned. So we know some people are just sort of born empathetic. They're caring, they're compassionate. Others can learn how to do this and how to react to situations with empathy. And the skill includes listening to others. When you listen, it often leads to more compassion. And then considering helping others. So that's something else we can facilitate in schools is students helping one another. I read an article about youth, specifically adolescent girls, and how if they sort of get into a rut where they're stressed or they're depressed, they may be spending a lot of time on social media, but their self-esteem is actually low, that one of the best ways for those students to feel better and to feel valuable is for them to help others. Some additional skills, and we'll get into this when we look at the how. Additional skills include meditation and deep breathing to help restore mental balance. So some of the skills that we just looked at: self-regulation, empathy. In order to be empathetic and to self-regulate, if an individual is very stressed or reacting to something or some sort of conflict, they may need this skill of deep breathing or meditation so that they can effectively self-regulate or respond with empathy or compassion. So right now, here on the screen, if you have your screen view on, you can see a very calming and relaxing environment. So part of mental resilience is to help students understand that they have the ability to put themselves into a more relaxed or calming state, regardless of where they're at. So they may be, in a situation where they're doing online learning and they feel really stressed out. They may be at a family gathering and they feel like they're being ignored. Whatever stressor the student's facing, they have the ability to regulate how they react. So one of the skills of mindfulness is for students to pay attention and to be aware and to start with their breath, start with calming their breath, and maybe even visualize a place or a feeling that brings them a sense of calmness. So the more often that we can get students to cultivate calmness and kindness and compassion, it becomes more natural for them to respond to life stressors with those skills that we just mentioned. So the third objective that we'll look at today is how you, anyone working in a school or a community facility, can implement strategies that promote mental resilience. And the first thing is to create the culture. So create a culture where students know that the expectation is to be compassionate or to have empathy, that they know that they're empowered to react to situations. So I've seen different teachers respond in different ways, but one of the best overall general strategies is that the student themselves has a voice. So teachers can talk to them about why they reacted to something in a certain way. What are they feeling that brought them to that point? So as soon as a student realizes that they're in control of how they react to life stressors, it sort of empowers them and may help them with that culture. This book, The Happiness Advantage by Sean Anker, it talks about positivity and how, very similar to the book about habits, Atomic Habits, it's not that happiness is something that just happens. It's something that's cultivated. It's cultivated within individuals, within organizations, and then it becomes the culture to have that growth mindset. So if I click on a link, will it bring me back to the slides? I don't want to mess up the system. One of the links that I have found helpful is this: in our school, we say, and instead of I can't, it gives a lot of different alternatives. And one of the tips that's associated with the growth mindset is not yet. So if a student is unable to, complete a math activity, or they're unable to serve a volleyball over the volleyball net, it's not that they can't do it, it's just not yet. So that might be a proactive way to create that culture in your school where students are approaching things with self-awareness. They know their strengths, they also know their limitations, they're optimistic, and they have a growth mindset. So a few specific strategies for the how, and this can be done through virtual education or in-person instruction, starting each day with a check-in, a personal connection, because part of mental resilience is that students know that they're valued, that they're not just, part of the school day, but they're a key person in the lives of others around them, and that they're a key person in creating their own future and day-to-day happiness. A second strategy is to work in partnerships. So especially today with so much isolation and so much distancing, oftentimes individuals almost feel uncomfortable reaching back out to people. But we do know that the research will show that when people work together, they feel better. They might not initially, because some students don't like group work, but after the process is finished, they feel better. Another activity is to teach students how to work in a group effectively. So I mentioned at the beginning of this session that mental resilience and social and emotional learning contain skills that need to be taught. They don't just happen naturally. So we can teach students negotiation skills, how to recognize their strengths and their weaknesses, and how to communicate. We can also create that culture of kindness. There's been some really neat things done in some local public schools, different kindness weeks, hashtags related to kindness. There was an initiative that came through our area called Be the Kind Kid, where that becomes a culture and that becomes something that spreads from one student to another. So with the quote here, you can see that kindness changes the brain by the experience of kindness. Children and adolescents do not learn kindness by only thinking about it and talking about it. Kindness is best learned by feeling it so that they can reproduce it. So when we talk about creating a culture, it really does change the brain, and it changes how people react to things in the future. Setting up a peace place, this could be in an in-person setting, or it could be online, where a student knows that, maybe if they log in to this space at a certain time, that it can be a time for them to reflect or a time for them to just be still. In schools, I've seen a few teachers or administrators set up some spaces that are kind of like a lounge or a sort of calming area where students can go. They may be able to sit on meditation pillows on the floor. They may be able to engage in some light physical activity, either with a stress ball or some type of stretching, but it's just a place where students can go to feel relaxed. And when you think about it, we all need that. We all need a space where we feel like we can kind of take our mind off of some of life's stressors and then come back to them later. Another strategy is to facilitate peer mediation. So problem solving and actually having a conversation when conflict arises. Now this conflict corner, I borrowed from another teacher who got it from yet a different teacher. So you may have seen it before, but it really leads to that peer-to-peer communication, where students that do have a conflict, they learn to talk about it. They learn to be a little empathetic as they listen to each other, and then they brainstorm a solution together So that relates to that growth mindset of, okay, this happened, and now what can we do? And then they end with a compliment, which goes back to kindness, and that it's contagious and that it changes the brain. Teaching students how to own their learning and their actions. This one is huge because we experience it as adults where sometimes we forget something. Sometimes we mess up and we have a choice. We can own it and say, you know, I think I dropped the ball on that. I never submitted that paper that I thought I submitted and now it's late. Or we can choose to make up excuses. And kids and youth are the same way. So if we create this culture where they're self-aware, they can self-regulate, it will help them be able to take ownership for their actions. And in the future, they'll be respected more by peers and by adults if they're able to do that. So it'll help build that positive culture. And then finally, taking a break. This one is simple, but so important. Just take a break. Monitoring progress, which is self-regulation. With my background in physical education, we're doing a lot more today with, it's about the individual. It's not about if they can run the mile in this time or do push-ups this many for their age or their gender. It's about how are you doing and what are you doing to improve in your cardiovascular fitness, in your flexibility, and the student sort of becomes their own marker of progress. Giving students a voice, this has come up several times. If they're self-aware, if they're taking ownership, the student is the center of that culture of kindness. And then making space for reflection. This can be done in person, it can be done virtually, but it should be something that the student feels it's about them and that they can do it in their own way and create a positive experience as you do that. And then I love this one, giving them responsibilities, putting the students to work. They feel good when they have a purpose. We all feel better when we have a purpose. So that's another way to build that mental resilience because the student feels valued. So then if they do experience an issue or a problem in life, they have some confidence because they have some value in themselves or a purpose. And then finally, check back in. So sometimes teachers get busy, class ends, students disperse, they're gone. One of the things that we've done at Slippery Rock is put a greater emphasis on reconnecting with students at the end of class every day. Yes, even if it means less content, less time for physical activity, because we believe that these human relationships are the most important thing, and that when that's in place, then the students are more likely to excel at their physical activity, at their content, or whatever they're doing in your class. All right, so a signature event. This is something that could really put a focus or an emphasis in the whole school on the area of social and emotional learning or mental resilience. So this idea for a signature event is a Spirit Week with kindness. And Spirit Weeks are not a new thing. They've been around for a long time, but they're still around. So it means that students enjoy them. They're not too hard to pull off. So a Spirit Week could be based on kindness. And each day, a different initiative could be led that focuses on compassion and kindness. And it could relate to putting a positive quote on the teacher's door. It could be that you pick someone within the school that you don't know very well, and you share something kind with that person. It could be to wear socks or a t-shirt or a headband that make you feel happy, and then to be able to share that with your class or with a peer, why that token or thing that you're wearing makes you feel happy. So I'm sure that anybody on here that works in a school or in a community center, you have that person or group of people that always has great ideas. So get them involved in creating a spirit week. And then finally, we'll end with this. I usually get my best ideas from other people, collaboration. So this collaborative coloring was an idea from 2 of my students that were in the social and emotional wellness class that I taught. And they created this gigantic poster that says believe. And you can see on the screen, one of the students, Brittany, is coloring it in, and they displayed it in our building around finals week. And it was amazing because just randomly throughout the day, throughout the evenings, throughout the week, different students would come in and they would pick up a colored pencil or a crayon and color in part of this collaborative coloring project. And then by the end of finals week, the students felt like they were part of something. It was a positive quote, but they felt like they contributed to it. And as they were coloring, they were able to just kind of take a break from studying, relax, reduce some stress and anxiety. All right, so it looks like that brings me pretty much up to the end. If you do have any questions, you can find Hannah, you can find me on the Slippery Rock website, and I hope to collaborate with you sometime in the future.
Okay. Thank you so much, Hannah. So we have actually reached, let me switch over here. We have actually reached our first giveaway for the day. So the first person to write their response in the chat box wins. So I'll give everybody kind of a minute to orient themselves to their chat box. It looks like you guys have been using it. You know what you're doing, so I feel confident about this. Today's giveaways are intended to meet the new virtual needs of many of our schools. So the headset is a noise canceling to reduce distractions and offers an attached microphone to improve audio quality. The headset comes with a USB and headphone jack port and can be used with computer or cell phone. The winner will actually receive 3 of these headphone sets for their school. Okay, so everybody get your chat fingers ready. The first question is,
Krista, before you, just make sure when you answer, just answer to all panelists and attendees, not just the panelists.
Okay, so let me give you one more second.
Okay, sorry.
Fix that. No, thanks, Heather. Okay, I feel like whoever saw the question is cheating, but in a good way, I guess. Okay, here we go. The Kohl Circle of Wellness program is an extension of what pro wellness program?
Okay.
Heather, do we have a winner?
We have a winner, Mary Ernest.
Great. So we will, Mary, we have your school contact information, but we will reach out to you, and any winner today, we will reach out to you, because what we'll do is we're just going to mail these to you. So if it's best to send them to your personal address or your school address, we'll connect with you afterward to find out the best way to get you those headphones. So thank you, Mary, and everybody else who participated.
And the correct answer was Healthy Champion.
Oh, I should have mentioned that. The correct answer was Healthy Champions.
And I will also mention that people can only win once. So if you won one of the giveaways, just don't worry about answering the other questions unless you just want to for fun.
Yeah, but you only get one prize.
That's right, just one prize.
But if you want to be really the overachiever for today, please participate in all. So.
And it looks like Hannah Brewer shared that poster in the chat box. So if you want access to that, and we'll also be following up in an email with links and the PowerPoint, so you'll have access to all this information after the fact as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, Heather. Okay, so session number 2 for today. Elizabeth Hivner is a project manager for Penn State PRO Wellness. She received a Bachelor of Science degree in Health Sciences, Public Health Education from James Madison University, and a Master's of Education in Health Education from Penn State University. Ms. Hivner's expertise is in evidence-based school wellness programming and employee wellness. She has enjoyed partnering with school professionals to enhance student and staff wellness through evidence-based practice implementation. She also oversees Penn State Health's employee wellness initiative and looks forward to passing along knowledge from this project into the school setting. So Elizabeth, I am going to go ahead and give you remote control access.
Okay.
So you should have that now.
Yep. All right. I think we're good and on. Sounds great. And I'm until 10:15. That's correct, right?
10:15, yeah.
Okay, sounds good. We'll try to stick to that. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Just to give you a little bit of heads up before I dive into the content, I'm planning on giving some breaks today so you guys can get up and move around. I feel like talking about employee wellness and mindfulness and things, I just need to give you guys breaks because I know that you have certainly have had a lot going on this year, and taking breaks are so important as well. So just wanted to give you guys that heads up as I dive in. So you can see the objectives and goals up on the screen. And I'm really looking forward to talking with you guys today. So a little bit about myself. So Krista had talked about my work in employee wellness, and this is through the Be Well program at Penn State Health. And we provide funds and technical assistance to champions throughout Penn State Health to be able to implement employee wellness at their sites. And that's a program that I'm really passionate about and love being able to oversee and have a great team that helps out with that program and makes it run. A little bit more about me personally and my kind of wellness practices. I love doing yoga and Pilates. I have a dance background, so that mind-body piece is really important to me. I also love going on adventures and going hiking. The picture on the screen is from a trip that I recently took a few weeks ago, actually, to Arches National Park, and was so fortunate to be able to get out there and go on a little road trip and socially distance and see nature and just see some beautiful sights. And so just something that I love to do, to be active and take a break and get away. So I would love to hear from you guys. So if you could pull up the chat box again and send to everyone, just kind of share your position and one of your favorite ways to be healthy. If you're going to type that in there, I'd love to kind of know who I'm talking to today. Pull that up. So your position, one of your favorite ways to be healthy. Maybe it's a food, maybe it's some kind of exercise, maybe it's a type of vacation. Awesome. Great. Anything else? All right, I see cooking healthy foods, exercising, fishing, exploring the outdoors. Awesome. Hey, Sarah, how are you? Wonderful. This is great. Thank you, guys. Feel free to keep adding those in there and see how everyone else likes to be active. I'm going to keep moving forward. So these are the goals for today, and I really hope that at the end of this session that you'll be able to take some time on your own to reflect on your own personal wellness and steps and strategies that you can use to continue to prioritize that, and then also strategies to be able to talk with fellow teachers and administrators about bringing employee wellness into your school setting. So let's start with some context for all of this. So we know that the current, the capacity of the average human body is to be able to live for, is to be able to live for 92 years. However, we're leaving 14 years of life on the table because their current life expectancy is 78 years. And this is because we are not taking care of ourselves in the way that we could. We know that there are high obesity rates, and for the first time in 2 centuries, the current generation of children in America may have a shorter life expectancy than their parents. And so there's so many things that we can do right now to help change that and help empower the youth and take care of ourselves as well, to be able to bridge that gap between the current life expectancy and actually what our bodies are capable of doing. So how much of our longevity really is tied to genetics? That's always something that people bring up, and certainly is an important piece, but really it's only 25% of our health is tied to genetics. A long, healthy life really is no accident. 75% of longevity is determined by our lifestyle and modifiable behaviors like a healthy diet and physical activity. Begins with good genes, but also depends on these habits that we practice every day. And experts say that if you adapt a healthy lifestyle, then the chances of living may actually increase up to a decade longer. So one of the many things that we can do to increase our longevity is physical activity. So adults should receive about 30 minutes of physical activity per day. The good news about this is that it actually doesn't have to take place all at once. So you can break that up into 3 10-minute spurts, and that counts for the day. But we do know that less than a third of adults meet the current recommendations for physical activity, and about a quarter report no leisure time physical activity at all. So why is this? So we know that kids aren't as active, and we know that activity levels and habits in childhood are predictive of what your activity levels may be through adulthood. We know that kids spend about an average of 7 hours in front of a screen per day. I'm guessing that rate is only going up. And safety is a concern in many places for children. There's less structured physical activity time in school with the increasing demands for academia and instructional time. We know that that's just kind of a natural consequence, and I'm sure that you guys can speak to that way more than I'm able to being in a classroom, but things have to be prioritized. And so physical activity just isn't happening in school as much as it used to be. For adults, things like screen time also is a thing, sedentary work environments, convenient living, passive transportation, things like even like escalators, that is something that we don't have to go up the steps. We can use an escalator, we can use an elevator. And we also know that there's many serious health risks associated with prolonged periods of sitting. And this field of research really is kind of still emerging, but we're starting to see that sedentary behavior especially is really not good, even if you're active outside of your sedentary time. So outside of your body weight, diet, physical activity, sedentary behavior can really negatively impact your health and is linked to a higher BMI, poor mental health, low back pain, and osteoporosis. In one study specifically that was asking workers to interrupt their sitting with a time to stand, they actually saw a decrease in their back pain levels. And it was just a very brief time that they were asking them to stand, and they saw improvement. So clearly the solution is finding a way to decrease sedentary time among both children and adults so that we can avoid these problems that are associated with inactivity. And so one solution that I've kind of alluded to with children is classroom-based physical activity, brain breaks, physical activity breaks, and that's just one small strategy to help students be more active. And if you're a teacher or if you oversee students, you can certainly get up and get moving with them. So how did we get here? How did we get to this part? So we know that there are these cultural shifts over the past 30 years that have kind of led to a decline in activity levels. And I think about my grandmother and how she grew up. So this is a picture of her. This is one of my favorite pictures of her. It's just a great picture. She's the one in the front. So she grew up in Hummelstown, Pennsylvania, right outside of Hershey, in a small town. I think about just like her lifestyle. She would walk to school every day. She was a second grade teacher, walk home for lunch, eat her lunch at home, walk back to school, and then walk home at the end of the day. I remember going on lots of walks with her throughout Hummelstown. I think she probably knew almost everyone in town, just being a teacher and being so involved in her community. But I just think about the way that she lived was so much more active. Like, she didn't have a lot of the conveniences that we do have today. This was something that was obviously very, that she used when she was older. And my first car had one of these, but you think about, we used to put in effort into having to open our windows. Now all we need to do is press a button. Home cooked meals used to be something that were that happened way more often. And then more recently, things like takeout and drive-through are something that has happened more in recent history that has allowed us to conveniently grab food, and this food is less nutritious, and we don't even have to get out of our vehicle to get the food if we want to. Just these small changes, cultural changes, that have kind of shifted our abilities to get the activity levels that we need and eat the healthy, nutritious foods that we were previously. And so we come back to this model. So the good news is that although all of these things have changed and kind of shifted over the years, we still do have the ability to make changes on our own, because 75% of our health is related to our lifestyle. So this really is good news. And I think something that we can, if we're thoughtful about, we can make a change towards and be working towards an improvement. So on that, we're going to take a quick break, but before I give you all a break, I wanted to just provide an opportunity for some quick movement together. So if you want to join me, I'm going to do a little bit of stretching and breathing, and then I'll give you a minute or so on your own to walk around your house, take a bathroom break, whatever you need. So with that, let's take a minute and just, if you could sit on your chair. If you're standing, that's even better. If you have a standing desk, awesome. If you want to stand for this, that's great as well. We're just going to do some shoulder rolls. So if you want to roll your shoulders forward and back, just kind of just stretch out and loosen up your shoulders. If you're sitting at a desk, if you're doing virtual learning, I'm sure your shoulders get tight like mine do. And then make sure you just reverse the opposite direction. Get the blood flowing in that area. And if you want to reach your arm across your chest and stretch out your arm there. Take some breaths as you do it. And then we'll switch and go to the other side. If you want to take 2 deep breaths and let it out. And one more. All right, so I'm going to give you a minute or so. So if you want to come back at, let's say, 10:04, so go ahead and move around your house. If you want to go, walk it up or down your stairs. If you want to do some lunges, be active, go to the bathroom, do whatever you need to do. We'll come back at 10:04 and continue from there. All right, welcome back everyone. As you're getting back in your seats, I'm gonna keep moving forward. So hope you had a minute to be able to get up and get your heart rate up a little bit and move about and take a break that you needed. Oh, okay. So I wanted to jump into, transition to a topic about self-care. So we know that self-care is so important, and I show this image because I think often we neglect taking care of ourselves, and yet it's so important. If you're ever flying on an airplane, you know that they instruct you if you need to use the oxygen mask that you're supposed to put it on yourself first before helping anyone else that would be with you, small children, that kind of thing. And I think that this concept is something that can be translated to the work that you guys do every day caring for other people, first pouring into yourself so that you can be ready and prepared and healthy to be able to take care of other people and mentor and be role models for others that you're serving each day. So I wanted to share with you about some work that's been done specifically by researchers that I'm going to get into some specific strategies and things that you can do and some new ideas for self-care practices. But first, I'm going to provide some context for this. So there are some researchers that did some work and found some pockets of populations who live the longest in the world. So writer and explorer Dan Buettner has spent his life traveling the world in search of answers. And his life consisted of kind of just trekking through the world on a bicycle, discovering thousands of miles in Africa and Asia and South America. And his travels really inspired him to discover and name the globe's blue zones, which are the countries and societies with the longest life expectancy and greatest happiness. So when it comes to exercise and diet, he found that actually the majority of people who live in these areas don't exercise or watch what they eat. They are living their lives fully and are living into the 90s and 100 plus years. And there are 5 confirmed blue zones in the world. So you'll see one in California, Costa Rica, Sardinia, Italy, Greece, and Japan. So these are places where people are living into their 90s and 100s and living fully in those places as well. They're still active and moving. Sorry, one second, technology. So the lifestyles in all of these blue zones he studied and came up with 9 characteristics. And he observed their lifestyles and identified some critical everyday choices that correspond with the cutting edge of longevity research and distilled them into a few simple but powerful habits that anyone can embrace. And something that a lot, if not most of these blue zones currently do. So I'm going to go through each of them and want you guys to kind of just think for yourself, what are you currently doing that are fitting into these spaces? What are some new things or that I could adopt, or some things that I could expand upon that I'm currently doing for your own self? So one of them is moving naturally. So they are, rather than exercise just in their daily life, they're finding ways to move naturally. So taking that extra trip up the stairs is something that would fit into this. Knowing your purpose. So why I wake up in the morning, articulating your values and living it out, especially in the Japanese blue zone, this is something that was really important to them. Downshift. So we all have stress, but these blue zones found a way to kind of wind down. So take a nap. The Sardinians would have happy hour and found ways to reduce their stress levels. The 80% rule. So the Japanese stopped eating when they felt 80% full. And the idea was that if you stop when you feel 80% full, there's that 20% that's left that eventually you maybe will feel full and really prevents overeating. Plant slant. So they found that all of these blue zones ate lots of plants. Not all of them were necessarily vegetarian or vegan, but plants were a huge part of their diet. Wine at 5, which is a really interesting one, but this one wine has been shown to reduce the risk of heart disease and cancer. And the idea of this is to also spend time with people that you love, with your family or friends. So, if drinking isn't your thing, it's finding a way to connect with friends is something that's important in these blue zones. Belong. So all but 5 of the 263 centurions that they interviewed belong to some kind of faith-based community. And then loved ones first. So they really put their families first, and the people that were in their family they spent time with and put them first before anything else. So I hope that you can consider some of these and consider ways that you can possibly add them into your life. If you want to look into more of this information, there's tons of information online about the blue zones. They also wrote a book called The Blue Zones, and you can do a little bit more digging. It's really fascinating information. I could probably give a whole presentation just on blue zones, but I wanted to share this with you and really share with you some great habits that you can consider for adding into some of your self-care routines. So I think we can all agree that we generally know how to take care of ourselves, but when it comes down to it, it's hard just to change, and it can be hard to adopt these new habits. And why is that? Research comes down to really 2 things. So one, self-regulation, and the second is habits. So we know that self-regulation requires mental energy. It's our ability to direct our behavior and control our impulses so that we can meet certain standards, achieve our goals, and reach certain ideas. So it's value-based action and requires mental energy. The kicker with this is that because it requires mental energy, our brains naturally are wired to always be looking for a way to conserve energy. So this is what slows us down when we want to try new things. It requires our brain to take energy, and that's just kind of counterintuitive to what it wants to do. So the solution then relies in habits. And you may have heard of the book, The Power of Habit, and I recommend taking a look at this, reading it. Lots of great info on this, but just kind of a brief overview and some details with this. 40% of our behavior is repeated in the form of habits. And if you think about how you go throughout your day, that totally makes sense. It shapes our present, how we currently live, and also can shape our future. So any behavior that you can be reduced to a routine is one less behavior that we have to spend time consciously thinking about and making a decision on. So if you can take these things that you want to do, make it into a habit, then you're more likely to be able to continue doing it. So more detail on how you can actually make it a habit, like what is a habit, how exactly are we defining that? So all habits go through this process. So it starts with the cue. So this is a neurological pattern that happens in your brain. So it starts with a cue. So something kind of cues you. So I'm going to use brushing teeth as an example, brushing my teeth in the morning. So I wake up and I think to myself, ooh, I need to brush my teeth. There's a bad taste in my mouth. That's my cue. The routine is going through and actually brushing my teeth. And then the reward happens after. And this is a positive feeling that happens as a result of doing the habit that I just chose to do. The reward for this is I have a nice, fresh, minty fresh taste in my mouth. So if you can think about a habit that you would like to adopt, establish cues, and then use them to form a habit and then set up a reward to reinforce that positive habit, then you'll be more likely to be able to make that change. So I use the toothbrush example just to simply go through it. But if you guys want to think for yourself, what's one new healthful self-care habit that you would like to adopt? And just if you want to think about it for yourself for a second, throw it into the chat box, share with others. Is there anything that I've talked about so far that you think might spark your interest, or something that you've kind of had on your mind of like, oh, I should be doing X, Y, and Z? And go ahead and just put that into the chat box and share with the group something that you would like to start doing. Great. So I'm going to encourage, as you guys are thinking of what is one of those things that you want to do, that you want to add into your life. Maybe it's the wine at 5. Maybe it's moving naturally a little bit more. What are some of these habits that you can do? I encourage you to, after this, take some time to think about how you can implement the cue reward system into your daily habits and how you can make that happen for yourself. It really kind of breaks it down into these bite-sized pieces so that you can be able to make these changes in your life. Great. You guys can keep entering them in if you want. I'm going to keep going. And we know that this can be difficult to make some changes because it requires a little bit of a rewiring of our brain. But it's worth the mental thought ahead of time so that you can then go ahead and make the changes. Okay. Oh, it's freezing on me, 1 second. Okay. Sorry guys, PowerPoint wants to not move forward. It's probably gonna jump all at once in a second here. Okay. Is Krista, oh no, I think is Krista still on? I'm wondering if she lost her internet.
I think we may have lost Krista.
Okay, you know what? I can just keep talking and I don't need my slides. So I'll just do that and that's fine. So I wanted to segue in, give me 1 second here. Let me just, yep, this works. Okay. Thanks for being flexible, everyone. So I wanted to segue into talking a little bit about teacher burnout and attrition. So we know that about 500,000 of US teachers leave the profession every year. That's about 15%. And more than 41% of teachers leave the profession within 5 years of starting. And this is all data from before COVID, so just kind of something to keep in mind. And teacher attrition also is a concern. So more than, keeping teachers in the profession for a long term can be difficult. And we think that this is because of burnout. I'm sure that you guys can think of some reasons for burnout and why teachers feel overwhelmed and decide to move on, just the volume of work, the tediousness of the tasks that you need to do, classroom management, things like that after a couple of years can just become really difficult to deal with for the long term. So in the chat box, if you guys want to, would you be able to enter in some solutions? So if we can move towards thinking about solutions, so there are many things that are outside of your control, outside of teachers' controls, but what are some things that may help this, may help with burnout? So I'm thinking, I have a couple of ideas, thinking about simply getting more sleep, saying no. Are there times when you can say no to things? Having more resources, having supportive administration, self-care, yep. Supportive team members. Yep. Hey, Krista, I'm able to just keep going, so it's fine. Whenever you're able to bring it up, that works, but I'll just keep going.
Okay, I'll bring it up as soon as you finish. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. More breaks throughout the day. Yeah, absolutely. So certainly some things to be thinking about. And one of you mentioned this idea of feeling guilty about self-care and taking care of yourself. And you're not alone. I think so many teachers probably feel that way, but recognizing that really pouring into yourself will help you be able to serve your students better is something to think about. And hopefully you'll have some time today to be able to reflect on some strategies and 1 or 2 simple steps that you can take. So thinking about a solution, a signature event that you could do at your school. So I thought about, and my team helped me think about something that you could do in your school that would be super easy, but also help with taking care of yourself mentally and emotionally. So teacher-led homeroom breathing and a meditation exercise. So consider maybe doing this every Monday in March. Teachers could pull up a YouTube video, and Go Noodle has some resources. Headspace has some great mindfulness resources that you could pull up and have a Monday in March to be a Mindfulness Mondays. Additional information. So PDE also has some additional information that they released in July of this year, specifically in response to the COVID epidemic that I was talking about, student and employee wellness, that if you Google that, you can find it on their website. It's geared towards administrators, but maybe something that you can share with administrators for ways that they can be thoughtful about the well-being of their employees at this time. So I encourage you to look at that, and I think we can probably send that in some follow-up notes as well. So I will leave you with this. So I just encourage you, as you're thinking about habits that you can use to take care of yourself and to pass on to other employees and try to promote employee well-being during these times of change and difficulty, I just encourage you that not only is this something that you're using to take care of yourself, but you're also being a role model for your students, and not by having it, having all these practices fully together and being this perfectly balanced human. I think that's completely unrealistic, but it's this idea of being able to take one small step towards caring for your health and showing your students how you're doing that throughout your days and weeks. So I encourage you guys, as you go through the rest of this year, to really be thinking about ways that you can be caring for yourself. And I will be sure that I pass on some additional information from my presentation to Krista and the team so that they can pass on to you, and you can look more into the Blue Zones and the Power of Habit book as well. So thank you guys so much. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me, and thank you all for listening today.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Really appreciate it. And like Elizabeth said, we will make sure to follow up with all the resources that have been discussed in all the presentations today. So don't worry about that.
Thanks.
Okay. Oh, perfect. So now we're going to go into a section to kind of, well, we had sent out a survey about kind of getting an idea of questions you guys might have about your Healthy Champion sections. And so we're going to kind of go through those now, and we would like this to be like an engaging conversation. So I'm going to be asking you to, put some answers in the chat box and that kind of thing. And we just want, to help each other out, basically. So if you have an answer to any of these questions that we're asking, or if you have an example, please feel free to put it in the chat box. So I guess, I can control the slides, maybe. There we go. So the first section is the psychological and social services. So some questions that the group has posed is, so like, how do we get started, or how does your school get started within the elementary student assistance program, and how is it best to utilize that? Does anybody have any successes or examples that they would like to share in the chat box about utilizing your student assistance program in the elementary school level? Oops, sorry. And I can't actually see the chat box, so I'm gonna rely on Kathleen to help me out. I don't know why I can't see it right now.
So we have one comment coming in saying that we are just starting it this school year.
Okay. Great. Anybody else? Oh, no elementary. That's okay. Okay, I see the chat box again now. Yay. I don't know what was going on with my computer. Okay, so and like for all of these questions, we're going to kind of pull some resources for you guys to help kind of answer them for you, and we'll include those in a follow-up email. And looks like we have another comment coming in. Okay, looks like you have like weekly team meetings. That's a good idea. Discussing referrals. Small groups. Okay. Bi-weekly meetings. Okay, great. Oh, that's good that you're connecting with teachers to make sure they know how to go through the referral process. That's an important step. We had to be certified first. Ooh. Lots of comments coming in. Okay. So if the SAP program is like more focused on academic successes and failures, how do you think that you could improve? This kind of ties into the next question. So how do you think you could improve upon utilizing that system for mental health issues and connecting kiddos to school-based services? Does anybody have anything to add about that? I can't see the chat box again. Okay. Okay, that's great. So having counselors and mental health professionals on your SAP team, that would be really important to increase the ability to connect kiddos with mental health services. Okay. So very good. Thank you for being engaged with this. Perfect. Yep. Counselors, social workers, behavioral specialists. Okay. So really connecting with those people that would be, you know, helping out with that. Perfect. And for your mental health screening or anything like that, or do you use any sort of mental health screening tools for the elementary school level? Are there any that come to mind that your particular school uses? If you just want to put any answers in that chat box. Or, I mean, how does that process, or what does that process kind of look like at the elementary school level? Okay, so they do a questionnaire and then the referral does the mental health screening. Okay, great. Do you happen to know what that mental health screening is, Stacy Coburn? Okay. Yeah, if anybody has a tool that they'd be willing to share, any kind of resource, feel free to put it in the chat box or email it to us, and we would be happy to compile that information and send that out as well. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna move on to the next slide, just in the interest of time, if it'll let me. Okay, so nutrition and physical activity. So how are some of your schools addressing diet and nutrition within the middle or high school age groups? And I didn't mean to do that. Okay, there we go. If you want to just put some answers in the chat box, and you can see there's some successes already up on the slide here, but if you have anything else to add, that could be a good resource for other schools. I'll just give everybody another few seconds if you want to add anything. If not, as I've said for the last slide, we'll be happy to put some resources together about this and send them out to the group. Okay, so I'm going to go on to the next one. Oh, okay. So Stephanie Smith says, diet and nutrition is incorporated into our curriculum for health and wellness. Okay. Such as 12 days of fitness. Oh, okay, cool. So some school-wide activities, that's a good idea. Let me get back to this. Oops. A wellness course for 7th graders to do food labs. That sounds fun. Food labs would be a great idea. Okay, great. Yeah. Thank you so much for your feedback. Okay. So what about school health environment? What are some communication, like the best ways for communicating topics such as vaccinations, or how, like some of those kind of tougher conversations? So like talking about substance abuse and anxiety and stress. What are some methods that your schools use? A vaccination flyer, okay. Great. Speakers in health class, part of Teen Health Week. Very good. And all this great information that you guys are providing in the chat box, we'll make sure to kind of compile it and send that out. So. Sounds like there's a lot of good ideas coming in. Okay. Oh. So we are actually just about out of time. So we do have more questions that had come in, but we will make sure to follow up with all these questions in the follow-up email. If probably towards the end of the week. So, and if you have any other questions that come to mind that we didn't go over, just feel free to reach out. Okay. And I'm giving up control.
Okay, great. Yeah, and as Heather and Kathleen mentioned, thank you so much for providing those questions and success stories ahead of time and being so actively involved on the chat box today. We will certainly compile the remainder of these questions and all of your comments that you've provided today, as well as other resources. And we'll be sure that we share all of that, probably not in today's follow-up email. It'll take us a little bit, Heather's shaking her head. It's gonna take us a little bit to compile everything, but we're gonna make sure that we get all of this information and all these great resources and suggestions back out to all of you, mainly as a thank you, really, for participating today. Unfortunately, we have 3 terrific speakers coming up, but just to stay on schedule here, we are going to continue. So let me get this out of the way here. Okay, so our third session today, Leslie Stillings works at Family Services of Montgomery County and is contracted by the Pottstown School District as an administrator and family engagement coordinator with the Pottstown for Early Action Kindergarten Readiness Program. She is currently involved in the Pottstown Trauma Informed Community Connection, serves as chair of Family Services Trauma and Wellness Committee, vice president for the board for Mother Goose Read to Me, and a board member for the Creative Health Services. So Leslie, welcome. I am going to give you control here. So the slides are officially yours.
Great. Thank you all for being here. I'm really excited to be here. It'll give me just one moment to see how I work this, if that's all right with everybody. do I just click on
You
the,
should be, yep, if you just click on the slide with your
it'll
mouse,
move it forward.
yep, and then if, yep, there you go.
There we go.
Got it.
Excellent. Thank you. It takes teamwork, and I'm new to this, so I am going to be asking questions. Thank you so much. And thank you for that introduction. So welcome, everybody. Today, we're going to be talking about preparing families for success through family engagement. So this is a really important and apt topic right now, especially during COVID, when we're always having trouble connecting and finding resources and all of that's going on right now. So this is very critical for our families and just for us with working with one another. So we're going to dive right in here. So our objectives today is we're going to be learning what family engagement is and how it can help prevent ACEs. Learning about the protective factors framework and strengths-based approach to engaging families. We're also going to be sharing practical strategies in implementing family engagement into your practices. So often we get stuck in theory and how things work, but it's really, I think it's really important that we go that next step, and then we'll share some practical strategies on how to do that in your own environment. Great. So moving right along, family engagement. To define it, family engagement, according to Family Engagement Inventory, family engagement is the process used to build genuine relationships with families. Relationships with families support overall family well-being and children's healthy development. When families are engaged, partnerships are crafted that have a common focus, helping children grow and thrive. Family engagement happens in the home, early childhood programs, school, and community. It's a shared responsibility of all those who want children to succeed in school and in life. That's a very long explanation. It's very detailed. It does encompass a lot of things. But I think, long story short, family engagement is about connection. Connection with one another and with resources. Family engagement is a bridge. So we want to be helping our families cross these bridges, connect with others, and it's a community responsibility. It's just not families, it's just not teachers. It's everybody that family encounters has a responsibility, whether it be a librarian or a nurse or pediatrician. So we are all doing family engagement whether we know it or not. And you are going to be seeing some pictures throughout this session with some of our families from our PEAK program. Okay, so when we talk about family engagement, we would be remiss if we don't touch upon ACEs. Many of you are probably already familiar with what ACEs are, but again, we'd be remiss if we don't go over it a little bit because they are tied so tightly together. ACEs refers to adverse childhood experiences. So the ACE study found that the more one has exposure to ACEs, such as domestic violence, addiction, poverty, depression, and other negative factors in early childhood, the greater the chance for later in life chronic issues such as illness. And those illnesses they have seen that are increased with ACEs is diabetes, obesity, depression, heart disease, cancer, stroke, even suicide attempts, and so on. Not to mention life potential, education, employment, and so on is also negatively impacted. So it might seem common sense to us now, but when you really think about what a child is exposed to when they're little and how that carries through into adulthood and then is passed on to their kids and so on and so on, it's critical that there's intervention, that we prevent this. And that is possible through the implementation of our practices of family engagement. So how can family engagement help prevent ACEs? So engaging with families early can help prevent instances of violence in the home, abuse, homelessness. All of that can help, but we need some strategies on how to do that. And I love this infographic here. I live in metaphors and similes so, and I'm a very visual learner. So here we have a great infographic with the picture of a tree and its roots. And I don't know if any of you have seen this before, but it really, it brings to light what our families are encountering. So ACEs, again, are adverse childhood experiences. You have physical and emotional neglect, divorce, mental illness, incarceration, homelessness. These are all things that we see that are going on in our families' lives, in our community. But all trees right here, they have roots and they come from something and somewhere. So these roots that are on the bottom here are adverse community environments. So we all are products of an environment. We all come from somewhere, and a lot of our environments have systemic issues. There might be poor housing, there might be lack of opportunity or economic mobility, discrimination, poverty. So all these things underlying contribute to the advent of adverse childhood experiences. So it just illustrates again, family engagement, ACEs, everything, nothing works in a silo, nothing is an island, it's all intertwined. Sorry, my slide. Here we go. So when we talk about metaphors, I like to liken things to, it's easier to blow out a candle or utilize a fire extinguisher when encountering a small little fire, right? But we can't contain a house fire once it's blazing. We have to call in the fire department. You can't extinguish it with your breath. You can't use a fire extinguisher. So that's just like with ACEs, prevention as opposed to reaction when things get really crazy. So being able, I also want to add too, if we can empower our families to identify things early or intercede early, we can empower our families to blow out that candle or use that fire extinguisher themselves. That's a very empowering act. So a couple instances, let's just say if we reached a family and helped them create social connections, okay, or connect that family to a resource, we may be able to connect a family with some kind of, let's say they're struggling with rent, right? If we can help find a resource that can help them make payment on missed rent, as opposed to finding a homeless shelter for them 6 months later, we're mitigating ACEs there. We're not eradicating them, but we are helping to, and we're not the heroes when I say helping, we're walking alongside this family. Let's say we're connecting a mom with grief counseling after her brother is shot and killed. We can help connect with counseling to help prevent or mitigate that major depression that may lead her to be unable to care for her children. Or connecting that grandma who's taking care of 5 grandkids if they're struggling with food security. Maybe we get them connected with Meals on Wheels or a food pantry before we have instances of malnutrition or difficulties there. So it always starts with a call, a phone call, or that just brief meeting. Right now, it most likely would be a phone call. But it brings up another point with connecting with families and building these relationships. How would you know that during COVID too, if things are online? So you want to look for other indicators. If there's tardiness or absences, I specifically work with like 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. So if a 5-year-old's missing school, he's not like out, skipping school, doing whatever he wants. There's something going on underlying. And oftentimes those are indicators that there's something else going on, whether it be a transportation issue or any number of things. So it's about building relationships and building those protective factors that we are going to be talking about next. So protective factors, what are they? And again, a lot of the stuff you do inherently and know about, but to put a name to them and a strategy next to them helps define them and keep it more present in your mind. So according to Child Welfare Information Gateway, protective factors are conditions or attributes in individuals, families, communities, or the larger society that mitigate or eliminate risk in families and communities, thereby increasing the health and well-being of children and families. So protective factors not only address individuals and families, but they include us, you and me, our community into the equation. It's a holistic approach that benefits all, and we are going to be identifying 5 protective factors. All right. Our first protective factor here is parental resilience. Parents So we identify parental resilience is parents exercising flexibility and developing inner strength, which creates resilience and belief in themselves as parents and decision makers. Basically, you're stronger because of the challenges you faced and survived. So a lot of our families have gone through a lot, but what they don't always recognize or see is how resilient they are and how they bounce back. And it's our job to help them recognize that. And strategies to help our families become resilient are right here. So relationship building, we partner with families. Okay, we walk alongside them. It's not a power situation where it's like boss and employee. We are partners. We learn just as much from our families as they may or may not learn from us, but it's just our job to be there. It is an honor to be a witness during a family's most vulnerable moments and to be connecting with a family. We also want to encourage to build on the strengths instead of focusing on perceived deficits. So when we're interacting with families, we want to be mindful and respectful of their perspective, because we know our perspective and how we see the world, but that's the beauty in it. There is so many different perspectives and experiences out there. There's also cultural differences, age differences, and how we approach situations. We want to recognize that parents and caregivers are the key decision makers for their family, that they're the expert regarding their family. They're their child's first teacher. You want to make sure that we're listening to what families need. Listening is so key and so important. And just to remind ourselves that sometimes, again, we get caught up in the moment, but just really hearing what a family is saying. You never want to tell them what they need. You want to ask open-ended questions. They might have different priorities than what we think they might need. And it may lead to a further conversation and finding out that there's actually more going on that is seen on the surface. We also want to validate, support good decisions, and normalize the fact that parenting is stressful, especially right now. I mean, we have kiddos at home who are online learning, and while parents are trying to do their work or make ends meet, it's stressful. And just because it's stressful doesn't mean that it's not normal. So we often take care of others and neglect ourselves. We also want to encourage them to take care of themselves, especially during this time of stress. So sometimes we're looking for the ability to cope with stress, use problem-solving skills, have self-care strategies, and receive services as needed, have help-seeking behavior. So we want to encourage that environment. Really cultivating an environment where a family feels comfortable communicating and reaching out. Our second protective factor is social connections. Families, caregivers, connecting with each other helps to build a support system and makes a family strong. This is also challenging right now during COVID because people can't get together, and we're seeing a lot of those effects happening when we're not connecting. The stress level is rising. I know I had received a report that child abuse is increased. I think there's a lot of stuff happening when we can't connect with one another, and that is a basic need, is connecting. So this is an important one for how do we deal with that now, like strategies. So strategies and examples. The main one is reach out. Reach out. Our feeling to reach out is good. We need to follow that instinct, and we need to do that for our families too. Reach out to them. They may not reach out to us. We need to reach out to them. You may be the only adult calling to see how they are doing. Oftentimes we're calling to see how kiddo is doing, what's going on with the child, but just to call and also say, how are you? How are you handling things? Sometimes it's the only time they're asked, how are you? It's seeing if they have any needs, an acknowledgement that you see them, that they're not alone. It's really powerful. Many of our caregivers are grandparents. with weakened social connections and very heavy childcare responsibilities. So that check-in is vital, however you can strategize that. Other ways to encourage social connections and build that protective factor for families is invite them to online social gathering resources. While they're not the best scenario, in-person is best, right now we do what we can. So there's a lot of online stuff going on. There's online parent cafes. Sometimes public libraries have virtual events for families to gather and chat. Or if you're feeling so inclined, you can create your own online social gathering. And we're going to be talking about that towards the end of our presentation here with a family engagement activity. Our third protective factor is concrete support in times of need. So that is the act of asking for help. When families ask for help, they can more readily connect with community resources and support. So asking for help can be like the hardest thing any of us can do. I know I have a terrible time asking for help. I am learning to ask for help. Many of us feel that way, and so do our families. There may be feelings of weakness. There may be feelings of embarrassment, stigma, or fear. So we need to come up with some strategies on how can we help families with that concrete support time and need. So in doing that, we want to identify barriers family may have accessing services. So those barriers could be manyfold. Some very glaring ones, like language. If they don't speak the language that the service is being provided, and that's definitely a barrier and can be seen. But there's other barriers that we're not always aware of, and it might not be told to us either, but it could be transportation or even perceived cost. A lot of programs, there's cost to things, but sometimes there are not. So we need to kind of preempt that and put that information out there so that a family isn't put in the position of like, I'm sorry, I don't have any money, and that feeling. So we want to just put it all out there for them. Help families navigate systems. Systems are complicated. They are so complicated. I find them complicated. I feel like I've been working within them and with them for years. So we want to provide that warm handoff to services. So forms can be complicated, right? We can sit with a family or talk them through a form to fill it out. Because oftentimes, even a form, we think, oh, it's hard, we can do this. But if you have so many barriers in life, one more barrier, like a complicated form or some kind of submission, that can just put an end to whatever the goal you're trying to reach. So the key is to be that bridge that connects the family to the resource. Follow up with the family. Sometimes we follow up with the provider to see if that connection was made. Now, that doesn't mean we're enabling. We are there to empower, but we also want to make sure that there's an ease of transition. So I think the biggest thing right now is don't be a gatekeeper. You want to be a door opener. There are so many gates in place right now, especially for our families when everything's online and they might not have internet access or Wi-Fi or a computer. Finding anywhere there's those barriers and trying to knock them down, that's so critical right now. So be a door opener right now. You want to also, I found this very helpful, is build your own personal resource catalog of programs and events so that you can provide referrals or just have some kind of resource guide. I can't keep it all up here, and I like to write them down. I keep it online at Google. I keep it in a Google Doc, and it's constantly changing. So things that could be in that resource catalog can include resources on emergency housing, victim services, fun family events that might be happening, food security, food pantries, community meals. They're great to have in that little booklet. And also we want to help the caregiver understand their role as an advocate for themselves and their family. So again, all about empowerment. We want to help our families, our parents, our caregivers recognize the power they have. They are powerful, and no one's going to fight or advocate for their family more than they are. So to help them recognize that is quite important. All right. Our fourth protective factor is knowledge of parenting and child development. Parents can learn to be their child's expert. Parent education helps make a strong family, but parenting is part natural, but it's also part learned. So we can help our families with this protective factor, with achieving this protective factor, by connecting and collaborating with outside agencies and programs that provide education or home visiting. So you don't have to do everything yourself. Just like the protective factors for families, you live them yourself. It really is super helpful. You ask for help, connect with the community around you and their resources. One of the most beautiful things is to connect to previously unconnected populations or organizations connecting them to a new population. So you want to be a bridge to other community supports. That makes a stronger family, but also it makes a community stronger too. So when I'm doing family engagement, I often say it's not just one-on-one with a family. I'm spending time. It does take some time, and it's great if you have a family engagement person, but if just knowing what other resources are out there, attending other community kinds of meetings to find out what you can connect. And sometimes you'll find there's duplication of services, and that helps other organizations streamline their services too. So it can be a very elegant model if you have that resource. So some of these parenting classes that I am familiar with, and I'm sure that you are too, and I know there's others, is a positive parenting program. That's if it's a social gathering, but there's a class component to it as well, where you're learning about how to handle your child's behaviors. So I often make a referral when a parent is asking, my kid is doing this, or I'm at home online learning and this is going on. I'm like, this is a great way for you to connect with other families, learn strategies and tools. Parent as Teachers is a home visiting program. Parent Cafe is, we're doing those on, they are online, and you can find them. You can find these sometimes through your local family center. So family centers often provide community services and other programs that promote a strong family. So you can connect with that as well. But I love parent cafes. They're very social. Right now we're doing them online, and it gives a physically, well, not even physically right now, but an emotionally safe space where caregivers can talk about their challenges and victories in raising a family, and they connect with one another too. So our fifth protective factor, fifth and last, is social and emotional competence of children. So we often call this SEL for short. And again, I'm sure you're all very familiar with this. So that would be providing children the tools and words to express how they feel. Families that can communicate effectively build positive relationships. So here's another picture here of kiddos enjoying a story time, and our emotions chart here so they can identify their emotions. But how can we strategize and be part of that process for kiddos becoming socially and emotionally competent? So some of those, as you saw in that picture, like story time. I come from libraries, so that's like my bread and butter, but it really is a great gateway to building empathy, seeing the perspective of others, identifying feelings. Other little strategies, and you can encourage families to do this too, is creating a little calm down area, a corner with a soft pillow, fidgets for a child to use coping strategies. Connecting families to resources that promote social emotional development, like second step games or connecting with counseling. Also being aware of trauma and how it can manifest in a child's behavior and interactions. So that's always a good key to keep in mind. So I feel social and emotional learning is needed for everyone. Even as adults, as we are our child's first teacher, I mean, if we can't name or express our own feelings properly, how can we expect our children to? So at Pottstown, our peak program, we're very fortunate. We have a social and emotional learning specialist who collaborates with families, provides support for navigating social and emotional learning in the home that mirrors what's going on in the classroom, training and assistance with the Second Step website. So we have a really strong team. We are very fortunate where we are, have a strong team with behavioral specialists, social emotional support specialists, family engagement coordinator. But But no matter what you have in your school, there are ways to add these strategies in some form or fashion. Okay. And I love this infographic from Strengthening Families. It just recaps the 5 protective factors. And I'm just going to go over them really quickly again, just to recap. So it's just a handy way to remember it. Social emotional competence, thumbs up, because thumbs up is one of the first ways we learn to communicate our emotions. Your index finger, number 1, you're your child's first teacher. So that's knowledge of parenting and child development. And social connections, that's your middle finger. Your middle finger never stands alone, okay? Because we need to provide a positive social network. So that's how you can remember that one. Parental resilience, that's your ring finger, because your first commitment should be to yourself in order to be strong for others. I think we're all struggling with that right now. And your pinky finger, the littlest one, is concrete support in time of need. Because it's the smallest finger, it reminds us that we all need help sometimes. Okay. And in the interest of time, this is our little takeaway here. I want to bring this up here. There we go. Okay, our takeaway. So I realize we have a lot of people here who may not just have the preschool or kindergarten area. I do have an activity here, but it can be modified, or you can get a different idea perhaps generated from this, but this is geared more towards our younger audience. But this has been a collaborative effort. So family engagement and activities can look totally different during the time of COVID, but it doesn't mean we can't connect with one another. And stories are a great way to engage, connect with families in person or virtually. So we have here, we all came together, our whole team, and I can't take complete credit for it. Collaboratives are great. So we created a virtual pajama story time where the entire family is invited to join and listen to a story read by a teacher. The point of the activity is to bring the family together and engage in an activity that's fun, but it's learning, it's building on all those protective factors, and encouraged to introduce that SEL, that social emotional component, to make that a dialogue at home too. So you're invited in your pajamas, a winter story, because it's fall, we're going into winter, and we all want to just be cozy right now. So we're making this a little bit of that component here. So you might want to read a winter story with an SEL topic. Going towards the holidays, you think, there's topics like frustration and excitement. You can read a story that are on those topics, and then demonstrate hot chocolate breathing. This is really lovely. I love this. You have your imaginary cup of hot cocoa and you're breathing in. Smell the hot cocoa, breathe out through your mouth, and blow out on the cocoa to cool it down. So you do that to calm yourself, calm your body, calm your mind. You can do it with your kiddos. You can do it by yourself in your office. And at the end, you would encourage an at-home activity. You would ask families to possibly create a little calm corner in their own homes using pillows and blankets. Families can share these pictures of their spaces to the class if they like. If you have the resources, it's wonderful if you can create a little kit so to tie the whole event together, and that gets sent home. You can include a packet of hot chocolate, popcorn, or a paperback copy of the book. So that way families can recreate this activity anytime, and encouraging family time, connection. And I mean, a lot of our kiddos, they don't have access to books at home, and that's a great way to encourage literacy and many other things. So I will then open it up. I hope I'm not too far over with questions or comments, and I'll leave the resource screen up here too, some resources.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Leslie. That was, I loved your takeaway with the hot chocolate and with the families. I love that idea. It's so cute. And again, all these resources that our speakers have shared with us today, we're going to make sure that we share with all of you today. The PowerPoint itself is probably going to be too large to send via email, but we will make sure that we have all of the PowerPoints from today's presentations on our website. So everything will be available to all of our folks today. Thank you again so much, Leslie. Okay, so we have reached giveaway number 2. So again, the first person to write their response in the chat box wins. I'm going to ask Mary, who won last time, to please sit this one out. Unless, you know, if you want to participate, go ahead, but we're not going to send you more headphones. We need to give other people a chance here. So this is going to be the same prize. The third giveaway I'm going to tell you now is different. So a little enticer there. But so this giveaway, again, the headset is noise canceling to reduce distraction and offer an attached microphone to improve audio quality. The headset comes with a USB and headphone jack port and can be used with computer or a cell phone. And again, each winner will receive 3 sets of headphones for their school. So get your chat box open and ready to go. And I'm going to share the question in 3, 2, 1. Please name one of the 10 WISC components other than physical activity or nutrition. Oh my gosh, you guys are so good.
Looks like we have a winner.
Are you guys gonna go with Jane here?
It'd be Jana Snyder, right?
Oh, Jana, yes, sorry, yes.
So thank you very much for all who participated.
And again, we will connect with you, Jana, after today's presentation to get the best address to be able to send those. And yes, again, thank you so much for all of your participation. It's so exciting to see. Okay, so we are going to jump into our next session. Again, if anybody needs to take a quick bathroom break throughout, please feel free to do so. I don't think we have many breaks scheduled from here until the end. So if you have to jump out during sessions, we completely understand, but try to remain as engaged as possible for the rest of the day, which is just another hour. So we're gonna go ahead and introduce our next speaker here. Let me just move forward. So Randy Fox's career is dedicated to education and emergency management. He earned a bachelor's degree in elementary education, a master's degree in educational administration, and superintendent eligibility certification. Mr. Fox taught 4th, 6th, and 7th grade during his career. He led schools for 18 years as an elementary or middle school principal and has intensive experience leading training initiatives for schools, childcare, and business organizations. Mr. Fox also experienced a near active school shooting incident as a school principal in September of 2001, which sparked his lifelong dedication to the safety of our schools and began his desire to customize services based on organizational need. Mr. Fox's unique range of experiences are why he was selected to lead the Center for Safe Schools towards the vision of comprehensive school safety. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to turn it over to Randy. Are you with us?
I am. Good morning, Krista. How are you?
Great, great. And I am going to, you officially have control, so it's all yours.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen because I have a little different graphic that I must have sent in late, so I apologize.
Okay, no problem. Let me know if you have trouble sharing your screen.
Yeah, I don't have control.
Okay, let me stop sharing on my end. And then let's see here. Okay, can you control now? Stop
I am.
share.
Oh,
There we go.
we are.
Okay, I've officially stopped sharing.
That's okay. We're on board now.
There you go.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. It's such a pleasure to be here. I have to tell you, I ran out and got a cup of hot cocoa after that last slide and Leslie's presentation. And really through Zoom, you'll never know if I put a pair of pajama pants on or not. So that was just a perfect slide for a wonderfully cold day, but it is my pleasure to be here and be part of this. I am the director of the Center for Safe Schools. We are a certified nonprofit, fully accredited school safety center for the state of Pennsylvania. Accredited by the Department of Justice, United States. We are a division of the Central Susquehanna Intermediate Unit, and 23 years ago, they had the vision to fill a void in Pennsylvania with a certified Center for Safe Schools. And for me, this is a dream come true. I have the school experience. I get to put my emergency management experience together to really serve schools around Pennsylvania. And honestly, with COVID over the course of the last month, most of our work has been with other states around the country. We're all learning together, and in this new time that's not so new anymore, I just feel very blessed to be able to make a difference with people. When we talk about the safe schools, our mission is simply to provide schools with resources, training, and technical assistance, creating and maintaining safe, productive learning environments. We truly focus on comprehensive school safety, which is the physical aspect of school safety. But we see so many schools around the nation that focus only on the physical aspect of safety. What they sometimes neglect to do is also focus on the school climate for staff, for parents, for students, and which incorporates a steady climate, creates a positive school culture. Those three things are what we focus on: the physical aspect that supports the positive school climate and culture. And we are not always the experts, but we're very fortunate to have a cadre of experts that if we can't help you, we've always known where to go to send schools for cost-effective resources to assist. So that in a nutshell is our mission. I don't say that to promote myself. I don't do that to promote the center. What I do is that it's become very evident that people need a background on what we do in case they don't know where we came from. So my background, as they spoke of, was 25 years total in public education. I have my NIMS, PIMS, and FEMA executive qualifications, and I do quite a bit of exercises with districts, but we also work with the climate, bullying prevention, and culture in districts as well. I had the privilege to be a past Battalion 1 command officer for Pennsylvania. I'm currently a graduate of the Homeland Security Exercise and Evaluation Program, and am completing my FEMA Master Exercise Practitioner. It's all a lot of fancy terms and things like that. The bottom line with our organization is we have people that have a combination of school leadership experience and emergency management command experience that we bring in to put those two fields together to really hopefully benefit schools in a variety of areas. But this is a lot of fun for me today because this is making school safety fun. So often when we discuss school safety, it's wrapped around a serious issue. It's wrapped around a sad issue. It's wrapped around a depressing issue, where if we can look at this as an aspect to use to engage communities, and when I say communities, I'm talking about schools, parents, teachers, local businesses, local entities, we really win in creating a sense of urgency for school safety, but also creating a sense of awareness and a sense of involvement in ways that we haven't been able to get families, businesses, and communities involved. I've never seen a more divided time right now than we have in our country. And I'm not going to get into politics or anything like that, but in my lifetime, I've never seen such strong divided opinions on a variety of topics. But the one topic that I've never seen people disagree on is safe schools for kids. If you're a conservative, if you're a liberal, if you, no matter what political affiliation you have, no matter what your background is, I've never come into a group of diverse people and have them disagree that school safety is important for kids. It's the one issue that nobody disagrees on. I've never seen anybody say, well, I don't care if my kids are safe in school. Everybody cares. Doesn't matter on grade level, doesn't matter on higher education, primary education, or daycare. It is the issue that can bring people together. And I think one of the things that we often overlook on this topic is if it can bring people together and people agree on it, let's use it to engage the community. Local businesses thrive on these topics. Kids thrive on these topics. Teachers thrive on these topics, and parents have a natural sense of urgency on these topics. Let's involve the local fire and police departments. Let's get them involved at times when are fun with kids, not just times when they have to respond. Let's reach out to our internet companies about internet safety and involve them with the schools and bring the community in to do that. Because no strategic plan with schools is truly effective unless the community is truly involved. Reach out to local pharmacies, doctors' offices, businesses, and bring them in for community events that are integrated with school missions and accomplishments. And we can do this around providing free resources to our communities, promoting the organizations within that can benefit the people and entities within our towns and communities. For example, I saw an event several months ago where they handed out surge protectors at a school PTO event. And the PTO event typically had 8 to 10 people that attended it every month. And they had smoke detectors and they had different giveaways and things. And that PTO event went from 8 to 10 to 12 people to around 175 people. And it was enjoyable. It was fun. It wasn't wrapped around any type of sad or depressing topic. It was extremely proactive. But bringing that amount of people in gave that school and community an avenue in which to communicate items that are important to them about safety. That's the type of things that I think nationwide we tend to fail to look at of how to make this issue something that brings people together. Again, I'm going back to the fact that I've never seen anybody disagree that schools should be safe for kids, parents, and teachers and communities. The integration of school safety with school events and promotions is something that's an untaxed resource in our nation. I talked a little bit about PTO, PTA events. There are so many school activity nights. It could be a school movie night. It could be a school academic night that have a fun safety scavenger hunt night where we're taking elements of school's all hazards plan or emergency drill plans, and we're building that up for weeks on end and telling the kids that we're going to create a healthy and friendly competition to see who's listening, who's engaged, and who's going home and getting their parents engaged. And when we get parents engaged around an issue that no one can disagree with, school safety, invariably they talk about it in their community and bring the community into these nights. So we're integrating the schools, the staff, the parents, and the community around an issue that brings people naturally together. Every school in this country is required to have certain drills a year. It's approximately 12 to 15 formal drills a year around a variety of topics. Let's integrate these unique ways to bring people together in assemblies, outside of school activity events, to wrap around these drills and have fun with it and make it an enjoyable topic where kids are promoting it, parents are naturally promoting it, and it's bringing people together and creating a sustained sense of urgency, which in turn builds a coalition around your school and community to build on the skills that they want to do. And also, this is all incorporates with the positive school climate and culture. If we use a topic that people don't disagree with and they can unite around, we are naturally promoting a positive, fun, proactive school culture. I once had a district in Maryland ask me, they told me that we've eliminated all consequences for our schools. We're just going to focus on proactive means with kids. And my answer was to them, there is always a place for consequences that are strategically designed to change behavior. That will never go away in any school. However, we build on that with increasing the promotion of positive school climate and culture. And this issue of school safety is one that's really used in a manner that could be built up more with our schools. It's something that we can use to build a positive school climate and culture. And really have fun with it. Be creative. Use this topic of safety as a catalyst to build discussion. Incorporate the community in your discussions. I've had schools tell me that we don't want to bring the community in because we're worried that they're going to interfere with our mission. Being involved is not interfering, but the school that has the best strategic vision and leadership process will naturally get to their goals, and incorporating the community will build that sense of ownership throughout your town, area, or township. And have fun. School safety is such a serious topic. It always is, but I even just did a presentation this week for the Catholic Diocese of Pittsburgh, and they had some extremely serious topics they wanted me to present on. I think we laughed as much as we were seriously thinking, but we pushed people's thinking in the process. And when they started that day and ended that day, they left that room better than they were when they came in, but it was an enjoyable respite for them. And we had a great time doing it, even though it was challenging. And that incorporates building this idea of incorporating the community involvement within your school. And embrace the concepts beyond the often difficult topics. There is no shortage, and anyone on this presentation would agree. I think you could name a terrible event that has happened in school, or a difficult event that is challenging to discuss and even want to think about. Embrace them. Use them as a catalyst to build discussions, and use them as a catalyst to build a healthy sense of urgency in your community that will help to build their involvement around a topic that people don't disagree on. These concepts bring people together, and it's an untapped resource. And I know this is welcome to be shared. I know that my email and contact information is welcome to be shared. And I'd be happy to talk with you more about this, because it's something we've seen a great deal of success, whether we've been directly involved in it or not, in bringing the school community and local organizations together for really the betterment of kids and the culture and climate of the community as a whole. And I'd be happy to take any questions from anyone. It's been a pleasure to be here, and if anybody would like to reach out in the future, I would be more than happy to have a discussion with you, and I hope that we could help.
Great. Thank you so much, Randy. And if questions do come through after today's presentation, we'll be sure to shoot those, send those out to all of our presenters to answer, and then we'll get back to all of our participants. And Randy, I believe your contact information, as you mentioned, is included in today's manual. So if folks do want to contact you directly, they can. So before we actually start our final session with Brittany here, we do have time, as I switch back over to my presentation mode. If everybody wants to take about a 2-minute bathroom break, you can have that opportunity while I switch back over. So thank you again, Randy, so much. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next speaker. So Brittany Weatherspoon is a district administrator at Clarence City School District, where she oversees attendance, coordination of social services and school health initiatives, and serves as the McKinney-Vento and foster care liaison point of contact. As a national cadre trainer for the Dove Self-Esteem Project, Brittany raises awareness around body confidence and self-esteem and promotes positive messaging that will transpire to help young adolescents develop confidence and self-esteem that play an instrumental role in their overall well-being. Brittany's professional experience is in the field of health promotion, public health, and education, working in various settings, including healthcare, corporate health and wellness, and K through 12 public and charter schools, has led to her recent Doctor of Education degree from the University of Pittsburgh. Brittany is passionate about creating healthier school and community environments for underserved populations, ensuring that young people are afforded the opportunity to reach their full potential. So let me go back. And Brittany, I'm going to give you control here. So you should officially have control of your slides.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Krista. And I thank you to the Penn State PRO Wellness team for having us here today. I'm extremely excited about this opportunity just to share more with all of you regarding the Dove Self-Esteem Project. There we go. All right. So what exactly is the Dove Self-Esteem Project? So many of you are probably wondering, the Dove Self-Esteem Project is actually a global initiative in which we aim to encourage the next generation of youth to have a positive relationship with the way that they look, they feel, both inside and out. We're here today to provide resources for not only just for yourselves as educators, but also for parents, mentors, youth leaders, and anyone who can help discover self-esteem education or provide that education to youth that you might be working with. The Dove Self-Esteem Project, believe it or not, has already helped more than 60 million young people to tackle low body confidence and anxieties over a parent's pressures worldwide since 2004. And our goal is to help an additional 250 million by the year 2030. So the objectives for this session are to help all of you understand how exactly body confidence and self-esteem impacts students that you're working with. In addition, how can you understand how the Confident Me program, which I'll share more with you today, can be utilized as a tool to improve body confidence and self-esteem. And then lastly, understand how Confident Me impacts students' body confidence and self-esteem. And I have a lot of data to share with you regarding that. So what exactly is body image? So when you think about body image, it's how a person thinks, feels about their body and the way they look. So you think about your appearance. Every person, regardless of how they look, can experience low body confidence. Body image is not static and it can change over time. So I just want to take a few minutes if you'd like to just kind of share your thoughts. So in the chat box, if you can just share how does low body confidence affect young people? So again, think about yourselves, think about your role, your setting, your place of practice, thinking about the young students that you're working with, and how would you perceive low body confidence affecting young people? Yes, Kristen said eating disorders, no class participation, friendships, depression, you notice withdrawal, yes. And then if you can also add, how do you see low self-esteem, poor body image, and low body confidence impacting your students? So again, whether this is in the classroom setting, maybe some of you, if you're a school counselor and you're working in small groups. So again, thinking more about your practice and your settings. Yes, a lot of questioning, okay. Self-destructive behavior, someone said yes. They typically want to be alone or make comments. Yes, so you notice some sort of isolation sometimes, more so like their social lifestyle, impaired academic success. Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. So when you think about the effects of low body confidence, so as many of you have already shared a lot of what you might see with your students. So when you think about the effects of low body confidence, you think about poor classroom participation, academic performance, poor psychological and physical health. And then you also see a lot of opting out of basic life activities. So again, goes back to what I mentioned in terms of the isolation aspect, and not just on, you know, a social level with their peers, but when you think about going to a doctor, maybe joining a sports team, interscholastic sports, a club at your school, or somebody else had also mentioned just kind of giving an opinion, so just making comments. In this slide here, we as a Dove Self-Esteem Cadre, we always like to share any quotes, any advice that any educators may have shared that have implemented the Confident Me program, which I'll talk about shortly. And so up on the slide here is just one quote that we wanted to share from a middle school teacher who has implemented the lessons in New Jersey. And so when you think about the Dove Self-Esteem Project, you think about it as it's actually stemmed from an evidence-based framework of best practices. And so when you think about Dove, and most of you, when you think of Dove, you think about the hygiene products. You know, I would go to presentations or exhibitor booths and people would ask me, do you have soap? Do you have deodorant? And so when you think about Dove, Dove is doing a lot of work on a national level, international level. So it's not just solely behind the brand, but then you also think more about the philanthropy work that you're doing, which is what I'm here to share with you more today. And so Dove, they had commissioned a scientific literature review on adolescent girls' body confidence. And then from there, the research had revealed that there were 6 key target behaviors and areas to genuinely improve body confidence in not necessarily girls, but also male students as well. And so if you look here at the slide, you can see what those 6 key targeted behaviors are. So you can see family, friends and relationships, teasing and bullying, talking about appearance, media and celebrities and how they have an impact on how students perceive themselves, competing and comparing looks, and then also respecting and looking after yourself. And so ideally, essentially, the goal was to have these, to focus solely on these 6 key targeted behavior areas. And then from there, Dove was able to actually create the Confident Me program to actually improve in all of these areas for students. So you get to know more about that later on today. And so the Dove Self-Esteem Project in Action, as I have already mentioned, it is a global initiative. It uses education programs to equip all students with the tools to help them develop a greater body confidence, raise their self-esteem, and then ultimately realize their full potential. And so with the Dove Self-Esteem Project, today I will share mainly with you, as you can see on the slide here, the first row is Confident Me. And so Confident Me, there is a single lesson in a 5-lesson program. It's actually a curriculum that will be available for all of you to utilize. The Confident Me program was actually our initial program, our more popular program, and it's typically designed to be implemented more so face-to-face with your students. So whether you're a health and PE teacher, a counselor, a school nurse, a regular education teacher, special education teacher, this can be implemented during classroom lessons. If you're most counselors and social workers, they might use this curriculum to implement during small groups with students. So this curriculum here is one of our 4 programs. The next 3 programs, so Confident Me at Home, this was actually adapted based off of where we are today. So thinking about, you know, the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of our schools are doing a lot more remote learning. So just thinking, how can this be implemented in a virtual setting if our original program, the Confident Me program, was designed more face-to-face? And so from there, we've actually adapted the curriculum to create Confident Me at Home, which is actually 3 mini lessons, which is comprised of the single and 5-lesson program. So you have the mini lessons, and this can be implemented in a hybrid or social distance learning setting. In addition to that, something that we have created that's new this year is our self-esteem calendar. So we have a 31-day calendar prompt that can be used for a hybrid or distant learning structure. And typically it's kind of like every day there's a calendar prompt and there's some sort of like mini activity that you can utilize with your students in a hybrid setting. And so when I think about many of you as educators, if you're doing maybe an attendance question or you have to do an exit ticket, the calendar prompts can be utilized for something like that. And I know teachers are always requesting additional resources for calendar prompts for, exit tickets and things like that. And then lastly, we have Uniquely Me, which is also something new. It's a new program. And this is designed more for parents, mentors, and guardians. And so it is ultimately a guide. There's usually like 9 lessons that are included, and it's designed for parents, mentors, and caregivers and guardians to create more of the conversation around self-esteem and body confidence with students that they're working with. And then at the end of each lesson, it includes like a checklist and some sort of mini activity to kind of gauge the learning. And so all of you will have access to these resources at the end of today's session, and I'll share more with you as to how you can get that. And then I also did want to note that the Confident Me curriculum and then the Uniquely Me curriculum is also available in Spanish. And so here you have the Dove Self-Esteem website. And so I can briefly show you just how you can access the web to pull up the resources. Let's see. All right, so I don't know if I'll have access to show you the website, but that's okay. Because like I said, at the end of today's session, I'll make sure you have access to all of this. So ultimately, the website where you can quickly find the resources. So if you're excited today and you just want to get a jump start on where you can find the resources, here's the website here. So it's dove.com/self-esteem. And so when you go on the website, at the top, you can notice that you click on Dove Self-Esteem Project, and then you can see here, there's teacher resources. And so when you click on the teacher resources, under that tab is where you can locate the Uniquely Me, the Confident Me single lesson, the 5 lesson for Confident Me, the calendar prompts, everything's there for you. And as I mentioned, I'll make sure that I provide you with access as well at the end of today's session. And then this here's just a screenshot. So as I mentioned, when you go on the website, this is kind of what you're going to be looking for, Dove Self-Esteem Project. And then once you click on that, the resources for teachers, you can just kind of see how the page is laid out for you. And so it's easy for you to find the resources. And so as I mentioned today, I just want to spend more time just kind of sharing with you the Confident Me program, because it's the more popular program. And then even if you're still in a remote setting and you still want to implement this virtually, this will generally just give you an idea of even so what those mini lessons will look like for you. And so when you look at the Confident Me program, both the single lesson and the 5 lesson program, they have downloadable resources readily available for you. And so it comes with an educator guide. There's also a PowerPoint presentation that's already ready for you. You can go through each of the lessons if you're using the 5 lesson program. In addition to that, each lesson will have student activity sheets. So the purpose behind most of the lessons, again, is just kind of like, there's like an education component. And then from there, there's a lot of interactive discussion and then some sort of like a take home activity worksheet that you can do with students. And then any additional supplemental materials. So some of the lessons might include maybe a Dove self-esteem video. So there might be anywhere from like a minute to like a 5-minute video that you would share to go along with the lesson. And so here is the educator guide. And I just wanted to kind of share with you just like a snapshot of what exactly that looks like. And so when you look at the educator guide, what I love about it is when you think about educators and you have to kind of create your own lesson plan, your curriculum, as I mentioned, everything's ready for you to go. And so when you look at the guide, you can see here, for example, one of the lessons that talk about media. It pretty much tells you the allocated time for the lesson. It tells you, what student activities that you'll need for the lesson. And here in the middle, you can see like teacher action. So what I really like about this is when you think about in the classroom setting, whether you're in person or virtual, and sometimes you might have a challenging time just kind of engaging your students on conversations, especially with this topic. And so what's nice is that in the teacher guide, it'll provide you with a lot of the questions that you want to ask your students. And then from there, it'll give you some sort of prompt to help engage them in the conversation. So that's what I really like about the teacher guide. And as I mentioned, everything just kind of laid out and it's nice and ready to go for you. The single lesson is 50 minutes. So the single lesson can be implemented within 50 minutes. And that is if you implement everything, including the supplemental materials to its entirety. And so thinking about your classroom, if most of your periods are shorter than 50 minutes, you can somehow maybe break this up, or I would just maybe suggest beforehand, just kind of looking through the single lesson, what activities are included. And then from there, you can actually decide maybe there may be like 1 or 2 activities that you want to do for the lesson. So depending on the amount of time that you have in your classroom, or some teachers like to actually break it up over the course of a few days. So whatever works for you. The single lesson itself will actually teach students how to understand the concept of appearance idols, analyze the influences that create pressure to achieve appearance idols, build media literacy skills by exploring how images and messages are often manipulations of the truth. And then lastly, challenge appearance idols by setting a goal to build body confidence and improve self-esteem. And so also we like to share that the curriculum does align with the National Health Education Standards. So as you can see, students will comprehend concepts related to health promotion and disease prevention to enhance health. Students will analyze the influence of family, peers, culture, media, technology, and other factors on health behaviors. And then also students will demonstrate the ability to use goal setting skills to enhance overall health. And this here, this slide just pretty much just kind of sums up all of the activities that are embedded within a single lesson. So I'm not going to kind of go through all of these, but within a single lesson, like I said, it's about 50 minutes if you implement it to its entirety. There's a lot of definitions, what is appearance, where do appearance comes from? There's a lot of discussion around, what do you mean by media? So when you think about media, is it social media platforms? Is it the television? Is it magazine ads, articles, things like that? This lesson also includes the selfie video, and it's about 1 minute and 15 seconds long. I like sharing this video because once you share the video, then from there, you'll engage in a conversation with students about, how were these images manipulated? Students will have, practice analyzing advertisements. The ads are already provided for you. Discuss if the images are manipulated. How might they make, people feel? How might they make yourself feel if you see this? What is this ad trying to sell you? And then lastly, there's some sort of goal at the end of the lesson, each lesson. And so the single lesson, the goal would be for students to kind of set a goal about how effectively to address the pressure that the student and their peers might feel to look a certain way. And so what I would highly suggest is if you do implement the Confident Me program, is to start off with the single lesson first, and then from there jump into the 5-lesson program curriculum. And I'll share more about that as well. And so here you can see, for example, this is what I mentioned. So in the single lesson, there is a supplemental material. So there's a video that's included, and here it's called the selfie video, and it's about 1 minute and 15 seconds long. And then once you share the video with the students, from there, you will ask the following questions. So I'll briefly show you what the video looks like. So that's the selfie video. And so from there, once you share the video, and then feel free, I notice I'm getting quite a few questions in the chat box. Feel free to ask right away. And then I can certainly answer questions towards the end. And so from there, here are questions to kind of engage the students in the conversation. So after watching the video, one of the questions you would ask is, what do you find surprising, unreal, unlikable about what you saw in the film? So you're actually breaking down the film. One of the other questions are, think about how the image of the model has been altered. How does seeing these unrealistic changes make you feel? And then lastly, another question is, how do you think it is unrealistic or unfair to compare yourself to your friends to manipulated images in professional media? And so again, you're really just having a lot of conversation about the video, just kind of like what you took from it. And then from there, after you share the video, from there, you're actually going to set goals with the student as far as like, what did they learn from this, or like going forward, how can they better perceive themselves? And next here, I feel like my slides are sticking. And then also here, here's an example of another activity in the single lesson. And so you will have students take a look at ads. And as I mentioned, the ads are already provided for you. You have them up on your PowerPoint slides. You can print them out. You can have students maybe work in groups if you're doing an in-person implementation of the program. So you have them look at the ads, and then from there, have them take a few minutes. And then next, they'll actually go through questions. And so again, they're analyzing the ad. So when you look at this ad, what is being sold in this advertisement? Who exactly are they using to sell it? What is the overall message of the ad? Why did they pick a person who looks like this? And then why would they manipulate a picture of this person to make them feel more ideal? So again, a lot more engagement with the curriculum itself. I've actually implemented it and I seem to really like it, especially students. So that is the single lesson. And then as I had also mentioned, there is also the 5 lesson. And so again, what I would suggest is, if you are interested, review the single lesson, which you'll have access to, go over the single lesson, kind of get a feel what activities are embedded within it. And then from there, based upon the students that you are working with and how much time you might have to implement it, then from there, you can actually look over at the 5 lesson program. And so here you can see lesson 1, appearance idols, the second lesson, media messages, confronting comparisons, banishing body talk, being the change. And then overall, if all of these lessons are implemented, it helps students to become body confidence champions. And so, as I mentioned, if there's the single lesson, and then based off of the student that you're working with, you might say, hey, like maybe I want to spend a little bit more time on media messages. And then from there, you can actually pull the second lesson from the 5 lesson program, which will be an additional 45 to 50 minutes in length. And then there's more supplemental materials as well to implement it. And so completely up to you. Here again is just another quote that we wanted to share from a teacher who did have experience implementing the Confident Me program in the state of Oregon. And then one thing we do like to share, you know, if you're in this role and you decide to implement the Confident Me program or any of the programs, is to be a body confidence role model. And so it's not saying that you have to have the perfect body image to deliver these lessons, but just some tips that you might want to try. First and foremost, just remember that discussing someone's weight and appearance, including your own, and people in everyday life in the media just kind of reinforces appearance pressures. So you just want to be mindful of that. Avoid sharing personal stories. Avoid speaking negatively about your own appearance in front of students, and then talking respectfully and kindly to yourself and your body and others. So again, just kind of being that body confidence role model, being open to just kind of learning and engaging in your students. And then from there, ultimately helping them to become that body confidence champion. And then just another quote that we wanted to share from a school counselor who implemented the lesson in the state of Mississippi. And so exciting news to share, something that we do every year is we provide incentives for educators who do happen to implement either the single lesson or the 5-lesson program. And so what does that include? I'll share with you next, but you'll complete a mini survey today. And so basically every year we actually incentivize 8 educators. And so there's 2 separate drawings, and you would be opted in to both of these drawings if you include that you want to participate in the evaluation on the Google form that I'll show you next. And so the first drawing, we actually select 6 educators who will be selected to choose a state education association conference of your choice, registration paid for. And then the second drawing, we select 2 educators that will be selected to attend a national conference of your choice at no cost. So when you think in terms of air travel, registration, hotel, everything is paid for, and it will be the conference of your choice. This slide here, we like to share just the impact that we have made over the years. And so myself, I have been a cadre trainer for the past 3 years. I am based in Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania, but overall we have 23 national cadre trainers in the United States, and including myself, we don't have representation in each of the states, but typically if it's doing an in-person presentation, an in-person exhibitor booth, this year due to COVID, we did a lot of virtual presentations or virtual exhibitor booths. We typically just like to go to state, regional, national conferences, or like today, just kind of doing webinars for different state associations. And so as you can see here in blue, these are all of the states in which we've had reach. So maybe we did some sort of presentation, we attended a conference, we did an exhibitor booth. And then as you can see, the states that are in the gray color, such as like Arkansas and Virginia, these were states that we haven't had any reach in as of yet. However, with COVID, many of us as cadre trainers, we did have conferences and things of that nature already scheduled, but they were canceled due to COVID. And so our goal ultimately every year is just to kind of, you know, reach all 50 states. And then from there, just kind of be able to provide these resources in as many educators' hands as possible, such as yourselves. And so this here is a video from 2 of our incentive winners, but due to time, I won't share it because I want to leave enough time for questions. And so next here on the screen, if you do have your cell phone available, you can actually scan the QR code, or in the chat box, I will provide you with the link if you choose to do that instead. Whoop. There we go. So if you can take a few moments just to complete the survey here. If you look at the chat box, I've also included a link to access the Google form if you prefer to do it that way. So either the Google form or the QR code. I'll give you a few moments. It should take you about maybe 2 or 3 minutes to complete. By completing the survey now, this will provide you with access to all of those program resources that I went over today. In addition to that, at the bottom of the survey, it will ask you if you would like to participate in the evaluation, and you can say yes or no. Completely up to you. If you do say yes, this will provide you with access, typically at the end of the year, sometime in December. If you circle yes on the form, then from there, we will follow up with you via email, and we will provide you with a separate evaluation survey just to kind of elicit feedback if you've implemented either the single lesson or the 5 lesson. And then it will also give you an opportunity to win the incentives. And so if you can just take a few minutes, as I mentioned, I did put the link in the chat box for you. All right, and what I will do is I will leave this screen up. I'll give you time to complete the Google form, the survey. And while you're doing that, I'm just gonna go through the chat box because I wanna have enough time to just answer any questions that you have. So I'm also open to answering any questions. Okay, yes, I see how someone had mentioned that Dove had a really awesome video years ago, how they've changed models, yes. And so if this is the video that I'm referring to, I remember this video. And so every year, something that we do at the end of the year is what I like about educators participating in the evaluation is because ultimately it just provides us with feedback. And so based upon the feedback that we receive every year from educators, we're able to kind of like make updates or changes to any of the lessons. So your feedback is extremely valuable. And so with that, if this is the video that I remember, every year we do change some of the videos, you know, based off of the feedback, but you're welcome to still share the video to students if you'd like. In terms of the age groups of students in the program, great question, I didn't share that. And so this Confident Me program is designed for middle school students. So when you think about ages 11 to 14, typically grades 5 through 8, but it can be adapted. And so I would suggest initially just kind of looking through maybe the single lesson, the 5 lesson program, uniquely made, look through all the program materials because I have had educators just kind of pretty much modify it. And so it can be used for maybe 4th grade students and 9th grade students. And something else that I want to share is that, as I mentioned, Dove is actually doing a lot of work. We have new resources this year. And one thing that we are working on right now is Dove is partnering with Discovery Education to create a self-esteem and body confidence curriculum for elementary students. And then we're also partnering with other organizations. I know that we have something with ACTS to where there's a curriculum that's also on the Dove Self-Esteem website that's designed for high school students. Let's see, can I share my slides? Yes, absolutely. Yes, so my slides will be shared with you. Let's see what we have here. Is this program appropriate for elementary age? As I mentioned, I would just kind of look through it first. It's designed for middle school, but it can be adapted. Can these lessons be done virtually or is it better in the classroom? Great question. And so As I had mentioned, you will have access to the single lesson and the 5 lesson, which again is more designed for that in-person classroom lesson. But once you complete the survey today, I'll be able to share with you the Confident Me at Home, which is the 3 mini lessons, which are designed more for that remote virtual classroom setting. And so what I would suggest is, if you are interested and you are in a remote setting right now, I would use the Confident Me at Home to do it in a virtual setting. And so essentially it's the same content, but a lot of the activities are kind of like more engaging for the remote setting. And I see Tanya here. Dove is partnered with Girl Scouts, and my troop went to Lincoln University for the Free Being Me program, which was a tremendous influence on girls. I love that. Yes. That's awesome. All right. And I guess for the sake of time, are there any other questions that you have for me? If not, I guess I'll turn it back over to Krista. And I believe that my information, my contact information might be shared. Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I think that I may have misspoke earlier when I said that it's going to be in the manual. What we'll do is we'll make sure that we include all of our speakers' contact information with their slides today. So as long as that's okay with all of our speakers today, we'll just add a new slide at the end of all the presentations with all of our speakers' contact information. So it'll be everything that you as a participant need will be in that presentation. Okay, Brittany, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so we have reached our final giveaway. This giveaway, as promised, is different. So again, the first person to write their response into the chat box wins. Again, I asked that if you've previously won, you sit this one out. So this one is a little bit different. So again, this fits with our new virtual environment. So the phone stabilizer offers students and staff with the ability to participate in virtual sessions and meetings without having to worry about the hassle of video setup. The tripod stand is a great way to reduce distraction and to have a steady hands-free video. Okay, so I'll give everybody a second to get their chat boxes open. And so we're gonna see who has really paid attention today. This one's probably our most specific question so far. Heads up, it could be found in your manual if need be, but here we go. Maybe. What is one of the Kohl Circle of Wellness goals? So we have 2 main goals for the school year. Name one of those goals. So we have some good ones here. We don't have specific goals yet. So if you look in your manuals, there are, yes, we do want to create opportunities for wellness, but we have 2 specific goals. Stephanie and Kristen, you guys are close. We do want to enhance your enrollment in Healthy Champions, but how do we intend to do that? Create new signature events. Yes, I see, I believe Bridget is the first one there. So the 2 goals of this program will be to work with us and we'll obviously, like I mentioned, we'll continue to provide technical assistance throughout the school year to hopefully improve your STAR status. The overall mission of Kohl Circle of Wellness is to enhance your participation in Healthy Champions. So you guys aren't wrong there, but we're really looking at the 2 goals, which are to improve STAR status and then to help us create new signature events outside of physical activity and nutrition. So Bridget, great, good job. We will, like I said before, stay in contact with you so we can get your mailing information and everything. Okay, so to wrap up, and sorry, I know we're a couple minutes over, but this will just take just a minute of your time. So after today's meeting, you're going to receive an invitation to participate in the workshop evaluation. We really would love to hear your feedback regarding the workshop content, as well as the virtual event as a whole. So last year we were able to provide this workshop in person. We'd really love to get your feedback about how it went virtually. Upon completing the evaluation, your name will be entered into a chance to win the wellness box. So the pictures here represent what is all included in this box. So it's upwards of a $500 wellness box. It includes wellness journals for students and staff members, and then items for a mindfulness room for your staff and or students, which would include a couple meditation cushions, mindfulness cards, as well as a meditation book to begin practicing mindfulness at your schools. Additionally, in the next month or so, we will be reaching out to participants to participate in a 10 to 20 minute interview that's an extension of the evaluation that you're going to receive today. We really hope to obtain more feedback regarding your Healthy Champions participation, as well as the virtual learning environment and events moving forward. And it will be mentioned in that email, but just to kind of put it out there, you'll also receive a gift card if you are willing to participate and give us a little bit of your time in the next month or so to participate in that 10 to 20 minute interview. Again, it'll be in the next month or so. We're waiting for IRB approval for that piece of the project. As always, we encourage you all to stay connected with the Pro Wellness team. As we've mentioned multiple times, all of today's presentations, resources, templates can be found on our website. There's direct links in the manual to the direct Kohl's program page. Again, that's where you're going to be able to find the presentations for today. All of those templates that are in your manuals will be in there. We will upload not only the presentations, but we're also going to make sure that we upload the Q&A by topics with the questions and resources, especially those ones that we didn't get to today. If you have any questions from now through the end of the school year, please reach out to one of the Kohl's Circle of Wellness team members listed here today. And finally, we just really want to thank everybody for participating in today's workshop. We really hope that this virtual learning environment worked for you as well as an in-person workshop would have. So we look forward to continuing to work with you throughout the school year, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, we see you all in public in person at some point this school year. Fingers crossed. So thank you all so much. And have a great school year and happy holidays to you all.
think it's just us now.
Okay, that's everybody.
Okay. I was like,
I kicked them out.
okay.
Okay.
Well, because I went to go leave thinking that like I could just end it, but I couldn't end it because, and even if I did end it, if we came back in, they would still be here. So I guess the question is, can we, what can we do about this chat box? Can we get rid of it to start fresh for like the next,
Oh.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think on your end, Kathleen, you should be able to save it somehow. I was like kind of looking into it.
Yeah, so that option was not turned on for the webinar.
Oh.
I went to turn it on and it says that it's being blocked by our security.
Oh,
So I just ended up taking screenshots of, I like expanded it so it was like a full page and I just screenshot a couple pages.
Okay.
awesome. That works.
Is there any way to delete it then on your end? Because I can't figure it out on mine.
If you, I think if you leave or like it's your first time coming in, you can't see everything before, right?
Oh, I don't know. Do you want me to try to leave and come back?
Sure, yeah.
When the people weren't leaving, I texted Krista. I was like, why aren't they leaving? I don't understand.
Probably walked away.
Yeah. They're just like, and I'm done.
Make sure there weren't any more giveaways.
Exactly. You know,
But for
just,
those who actually stayed.
that's right.
Yeah.
Maybe Tanya will pop into our next cohort. She'll already know all the answers and be ready. That's too funny.
I think that went really well.
I think it did too. I felt a little awkward and spazzy with the Q&A, but I think it was fine.
Yeah.
I honestly thought the Q&A was really good. I like,
Okay.
oh yeah, the chat's clear.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't see anything on my end. Is there anything else did Randy ever actually send his other slides or, okay, then I'll just give him, that was fine. I'll just give him control for him to share his stuff then. That's fine.
Like his comment, he's like, oh,